I'll call this meeting of the Sweetwater County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees to order. If you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First of all, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Smith. She is a senior from Farson Eden High School, also the student council president, so she's our student liaison this month as well as for October and November. So welcome, Rebecca. We're very happy to have you. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wright for the education corner.
Thanks, Chair Jellicoe. So you might have to remember back to last, I think was March and April, we talked about two terms that are often used in the education world around test scores. And our goal is just to bring some awareness to these terms and kind of help parents, help the community better understand them. And since those were way back then, we're picking back up on that now and just talking about this third indicator that often gets discussed. And so I believe March was a discussion around growth, and April was around like accountability. And so tonight we want to talk about equity. So in the context of school accountability, equity is used to ensure that there is support for all learners, regardless of their background or academic ability. This indicator is designed to minimize achievement gaps and encourage schools to do as well as possible with the students who are most at risk. Students whose performance in math or reading or both fall below a specific cut score are assigned to a consolidated subgroup. The school score for equity is a weighted mean growth percentile. So that's called the MGP. And basically it's the average improvement score. The weighting of the MGP for the equity indicator includes 80% weighting for the consolidated subgroup MGP and 20% weighting for the MGP for all students not in the consolidated subgroup. So it kind of shows you that the average is shifted more to that consolidated subgroup or the more at risk. So that was probably a mouthful and you're wondering what the heck does that mean? I'm coaching soccer right now, so I have a soccer analogy for you. This is kind of what it means. Suppose that you have a soccer team with players of varying skill levels. Some score nearly every goal that they shoot, while others struggle and need more coaching and practice to improve. Equity means giving each player the support they need to improve, regardless of the skills or experience that they had before joining the team. So let's say the players who do not make at least 6 out of every 10 goals they attempt, they're assigned to this consolidated subgroup. The coach, which is our teachers and our staff, then provide extra training and opportunities to help the struggling players improve their techniques and reach the benchmark or the cut score for making 6 or more out of every 10 goals they shoot. The team, which is the school in this sense, their success is measured by how much each player improves throughout the season. So for the team or the school, the improvement is represented by that mean growth percentile, the MGP. The MGP shows how much each player or student improves over time compared to others. In this case, the improvement score is calculated with 80% of the focus on the struggling players, which we called that consolidated subgroup, and 20% on the other players who are already performing well. By focusing more on the players who need the most help, the coach ensures that every player has a chance to contribute to the team's success, not just the star players. Similarly, the school prioritizes supporting the students who are more at risk, aiming to minimize achievement gaps and helping all students succeed. So hopefully that helps you better understand what all those terms were. And if that's something that you're interested in getting more information on, the district and the state have all those percentages and everything broken out, so you could contact us for more information, but hopefully that helps a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. In addition to the agenda is the superintendent highlights. And so I'd like to turn the time over to Dr. Libby.
Thank you. Excuse me. We're do this a little differently. We're gonna take some time here. I've had to talk to Chair Jellicoe about the opportunities to share some highlights with the board and the community prior to the meetings going. So some of the things that I want to highlight this time around is the enrollment. Our September 3rd enrollment was 4864 at the beginning of this school year. And as of last year, we were 4884. So we're down about 20 students currently. A few other things that we're going to highlight is we have some end of COVID protocols that are coming up. So the funding that we received through the state through COVID lasts until September of 2024. And because of those protocols, we had to have information posted on our webpage, and it also put some different protocols in place for the school district around distancing and cleaning and those other pieces. Because those federal requirements are dropping off here at the end of this month, we also have the opportunity where we can clean some of that information up and off of the webpage. What that means is that some of those COVID protocols that are posted on the webpage will pull off. We'll house. Hopefully we never have to pull them back out again, but we'll hold on to them. We'll get them off the webpage. It also means that there's potential changes to how we do written public comment that will be coming up later for board discussion. It also means that in this process that we're going to make some changes to one for having superintendent highlights, that we have an opportunity that Mr. Wright and I have spoken about. How are we going to better communicate information that we're trying to share with the community? So one of those pieces is we're going to take down the rumors and reality page that's been sitting on the webpage, and we're going to put it under construction, and we're going to take some of that information and we're going to use the education corner aspect, and we're going to start posting information that is vital to the community as a whole, so they have a better understanding of how the school district operates and how the school district runs. So in an effort to provide some more transparency just on how we work, we're going to use this education corner as an opportunity to put out some more communication. We don't know if it'll work right away, but we're going to modify and adjust. We're going to continue to try to get better as to how we share information with everyone. A few other highlights. We've got the Wyoming School Board Association annual conference that's coming up in November 20th to 22nd. I would highly encourage folks, if you have the opportunity where you can steal away and you can make it, we'd love to have you there. If you let Ms. Murray know by October 15th, we can take advantage of some early bird costs for getting to the conference. We have Edmentum, which is the new platform for Plato. Plato is a software product that we used in the past for doing credit recovery for students to gain credit back or to fill in some gaps for their learning. They changed over to Edmentum. It's the same company. It's just a division of it. Edmentum's coming up as one of those board items that we use for credit recovery for all of our students, and then to help fill in some of the gaps for where our kids are falling behind. I think currently at the secondary level, they're doing some testing to help identify where our kids need some acceleration work, but also where they can use some work for advancement so that they can move ahead. Last one that's on here is, actually I've got a few. So we're reestablishing our connections with the community. And over the past few years, we struggled with really providing some community resources for not only students, but for some families that were in need of services. So we have a CHINS process, a Child in Need of Services process that Ms. Fletcher is in charge of. And she has done a wonderful job of reaching out to not only our community resources, but also to the city and the county to get involved in really helping us provide some new positive resources for our students. So I'm really excited about rebuilding and reestablishing those connections. There was one question that came up around the use of Parent Square and how do we communicate from the school district. And again, what we're really trying to do is provide information out in the best form and fashion so that people are aware of what's happening inside the school district. And we're gonna flip a coin here. When I got here, we had a handful of community members come and speak to me about the overuse of Parent Square. We send too much information out over Parent Square, and we're burying people in information that may not be the most valuable, so parents just stop looking at it. Well, that's not good. And then we have others that say, hey, I go there for everything. We would really like you to continue adding pieces into Parent Square so that we can continue to find value in that. we're going to keep working on it. We're going to find a balance as to where we're not overusing it, but we're sharing information in an appropriate and timely fashion. My communication with a lot of the building administrators was currently use the Parent Square to send out immediate information and immediate communication that is time sensitive. We wanted to reduce the number of things that were going through Parent Square so that we can increase the use of it for the urgency for making sure that parents were using it. We've got to find a balance because we've heard that we put out the board meetings on there. We put out the board agendas on there to say, hey, there's a board meeting. I don't necessarily think that that's something that needs to go there because the board meetings are always the second Monday and we post that on the webpage. However, if it works for the community, then it works for me. So if that's the feedback that we get and that's where they would like it, we'll absolutely put that information there. With that, as we move forward and we do superintendent highlights, we had a great start to the year. We had a fantastic time getting our high school kids out to the elementary schools. We posted a ton of photos. There's been some great work and great activities at all of our schools this year. We've done learning walks already where we see empty hallways and kids in classrooms and learning and engaging. And as we move forward into the next few months, I'll give little clippets of some highlights from the previous month, but also the great things that are moving ahead and in front of us. And I want to highlight, having Ms. Smith here has been great. We are connecting all of our student councils. So the Farson Student Council is going to be working with the Rock Springs Student Council, which is going to be working with the Black Butte Student Council representatives so that we have a common voice throughout the school year for our secondary kids to have their voice shared not only with me, but also with the community and the school board as we move forward. We've not done it before. This is one of those why not moments, why not? So we're going to give it a shot, and I'm really excited to have you here. I look forward to having you and be involved in the next few months. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Okay, another change that we've made is we've moved the good of the order from the end of the meeting to the beginning, more of the beginning of the meeting. So I'll open up the good of the order. Mr. Wright?
Chair Jellicoe. I have two items for good of the order. First, I wanted to make a few comments in regards to the event that transpired at the high school today. Please, I'm asking for your understanding that not a lot of time has passed between the incident occurring and our board meeting tonight. However, I thought it was important that we address this topic as best as possible that we can right now at this time. So fortunately, we as a district were provided with a very uneventful scenario that we're going to be able to learn from. Unfortunately, and understandably, due to the sensitive nature around the topic of this incident, district staff likely felt let down due to the lack of communication. So with our goal of transparency and communication being forefront, I wanted to try to share a few comments around the situation that are factual to the best of my current understanding. Please know that I spoke with Dr. Libby and the school resource officer this afternoon just to help in my understanding. And these are a couple things that I can tell you about the incident. So number one, the incident was originally reported. I'm not saying what it turned out to be. The incident was originally reported as an airsoft gun by the reporting individual. That individual confirmed that they could see an orange plastic tip. That's what we know. Based on the report and by district policy, this is considered a replica, and a replica such as this does not warrant a school lockdown. Furthermore, it was necessary for RSPD to actively investigate the accusations and question the individual involved prior to making any notification or press being released. That said, I can understand totally and completely that the lack of communication around a topic such as school safety feels unacceptable. And as noted earlier, we have the opportunity to learn from this incident and how it could be better handled in the future. So I recognize that this doesn't feel great given the current news in the nation and issues surrounding this topic. I want our community, our staff, our students, and parents to understand me very clearly. I hear you, and I fully appreciate the fear and the anxiety that this caused, especially when the information was coming out secondhand. So here's what I can tell you. With school safety being a top priority for me, upon hearing this about this incident, I reached out and spoke to our high school SRO. I know that the district training that Officer Hager performed last year was very well received. The good news is he has more to share, and he's very interested in equipping our staff with the very best tools and techniques available today, including timely communications based on the severity of the incident. Furthermore, Dr. Libby and I had a great discussion prior to the board meeting, and we have a meeting set up to continue discussions with Officer Hager regarding ways that the district can equip and support staff and administration to better communicate safety responses associated with active situations when the timing makes sense given the situation. So to wrap this up, please know this. I'm not asking you not to be upset. I'm not asking you to stop asking questions. Expressing your concern and asking questions is how we're all going to learn together. While I understand that time is of the essence in getting answers and understanding how we can improve so that continued fear, anxiety, and frustration aren't felt by staff trying to protect their students or parents who are worrying about their children or the community being anxious about a threat, I also am appreciative of your patience and understanding in allowing the board and the district to work together with our RSPD and our school SROs, our admin, our leadership teams, all working together to improve our process while keeping student safety our number one priority. I can assure you that student and staff safety is always our very first priority. So that's the best I can share with you right now. Know that we'll come back likely at next month's good of the order with some additional progress that we've made given our future conversations. So with that, Dr. Libby, is there anything else that you'd like to add to the situation?
No, thank you. I appreciate that. One of the things that I learned today is that we have a communications officer at Rock Springs Police Department. And I wasn't aware of that initially. I think one of the things that I've learned from this is that we need to communicate a little bit better and get on the same page, that if information is going out, that we collaborate a little bit better on the timeliness of how that occurs. And that's on me. I completely own that. And like you said, we're working with Officer Hager. I'm excited about the communications and the work that he's already done and that we're going to continuing to do. I'm fully supportive of the work that we do with our law enforcement agencies on school grounds. So the best we can do is continue to move forward and get better at our practices. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you, sir.
Further good of the order?
Sorry, Chair Joko, one more.
Okay.
Separate topic. You guys probably did receive a parent square around this Project Aware. And I just wanted to, again, as we kind of communicated, some of those posts go unread. And so I wanted to bring a little awareness to it tonight. And then as a follow-up, I'm hoping that maybe next month or when time allows, we could have a presentation on this to just bring a little more awareness to the community. But what I did get out of the post, there are 4 things that are really neat about this. It's essentially a survey, and we all know top of mind mental health is a big concern. It's a big concern for students. It's a big concern for staff. It's a big concern for anybody in our world today. And I think we need to take it seriously. And in my eyes, this survey is the first step to taking it seriously. And we have the grant money to do so. So let's take advantage of it. But the 4 things from this: increase access to mental health and substance abuse services, increase student, parent, and family knowledge of mental health skills that will promote resilience, pro-social behaviors, and prevent youth violence through outreach, engagement, and training. Number 3, increase districts' capacity to recognize and appropriately respond to mental health and substance abuse needs of students through professional development and training. That's huge. And number 4, develop state and district level infrastructure to foster wellness in students and families. Those are the goals. If people don't actively, and it is voluntary, but if people don't actively partake in that, it diminishes the outcome that we can have. And I think it's a very good opportunity. So please, if you can and you're willing, I believe it started at 5th grade, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th. Are the people asking to participate? Just my 2 cents, but I'd really appreciate it because I think it's something we could really benefit from. Thanks.
Thank you. Further good of the order?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Thompson?
I just have a few things. So Head Start is off and going, They are already completely full, and they have a wait list of 8 already. So they're going to continue their pursuit of looking for more funding, grant funding, so a possibility of opening another classroom. But we all know it's funding, so they're going to keep searching and see if that's a possibility. And then we started the new year with a great group of parents on the policy council, and we will continue to work with them throughout the year. Other thing is for BOCES 5. Right now, Roosevelt Learning Center does have 9 students, and that includes both District 1 and District 2. 3 of those are actually seniors this year, so they're going to try to get them all the support that they need to be successful and achieve graduation at the end of the year. That's what I have for on BOCES 5. And then the final thing, it's on our website, sweetwater1.org. But if you guys haven't had a chance, I would very encourage you to check out the suicide prevention schedule of events from Prosper. It encourages you to question, persuade, and refer. Sorry, I had a hard time reading my screen. But throughout this week, starting tomorrow night, there are various sessions. There's a QPR for teens, one for adults. There's also a bench dedication, a soul shop, a resource fair, and then there's an actual Prosper training. We'll wrap up on the 26th of September. The event for the teens, it's encouraged that any 11 through 13-year-olds must have an adult present with them to attend that. That is tomorrow at WWCC. I would encourage, I know suicide prevention and mental health is sometimes hard to talk about, but starting conversations like this and getting teens and families aware of things to look for is a positive start in the right direction. So I would encourage as many of you, please get your family members there. I know that the junior high is doing an incentive, so they get so many Minga points, and they also get a JAG t-shirt if they show up and sign up and attend. And other schools might be doing the same. So please consider that if you have an open spot in your schedule. We all know that suicide is a problem nationwide, and it is a problem here in Sweetwater County. So anything we can do to try to prevent some of those would be beneficial. So check that out. It's on the website. It looks like this, if you can see that tiny little thing, and it has all of the dates and times. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Further good of the order. I too have a few things. I had the opportunity to meet with all of our new staff and administration at a breakfast in early August, a couple of days after they arrived, and had an opportunity to speak with, I think, every one of the new staff that was there. So I'm really pleased to see the new staff that have joined us here at Sweetwater One. I was also honored and privileged to welcome our teachers and staff to the 24-25 school year on August 9th during a presentation with all of the staffs. And so hopefully I believe we've gotten off to a very good start. And so I think things are moving along as well as we could, maybe with the exception of a hiccup today. So I want to thank all those high school students who welcomed our youngest students to their first day of school on August 14th. I think that those kids really enjoyed it, and they had I think the students that performed had a good time, and the young people really thought that was cool to be welcomed to school that day. On August 22nd, I attended the Select Committee on School Facilities in Jackson to continue support for the replacement high school. So we will be monitoring those meetings as well as legislative meetings throughout the state moving forward. We do have the $150 million allocation from the state, and we want to continue to be a presence at those meetings as we move forward through the process. I should mention, I think there's a misunderstanding, and I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify. The $150 million is state funded. For decades, Sweetwater County has filled state's coffers with mineral money, with oil and gas money, and this $150 million is actually a drop in the bucket that is coming back to our community. So that money is state money, Buildings are built by the state at this time, but we will be meeting with staff, we will be meeting with the community, we will be doing surveys and so forth as we set out to establish what it is in a new high school that we want. And of course, if there are enhancements, those kinds of things, then we're going to have to come up with funding for those. But that 150 million is kind of the base price. So just to clarify, that is state money that is coming back to us from the money that we sent to the state. And lastly, a week from Wednesday is the WSBA Fall Roundup in Pinedale. And if you are interested in attending, please contact Ms. Murray. She needs to register you by tomorrow. So any other good of the order?
Madam Chair, is it okay if I try to get to the one in Kemmer instead?
Yes.
Okay, because I have a conflict.
Okay. Yes, that's a possibility. Any further good of the order? Okay, then we'll proceed with recognition. Did you have anything that you wanted to share, Rebecca, at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. You don't need to lead it. It'll catch you.
Okay, so over in Farson, we have a lot of fun events coming up, such as like our homecoming. We also just got a new scoreboard. So if you come out to any home football games, it's really clear. You can hear from the stands. Everything is great. We'd also like to congratulate Rock Springs for their new school. But check the webpage and you can always see like what's going on down there if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll proceed with recognition. Good job.
Good evening. Board of Trustees, Superintendent Libby, and the school districts would like to recognize the following employees and students. So if you could please join me down on the floor for recognition.
Come down and join us. Come down and join us.
We can take this stuff.
Athletic, non-athletic.
Rebecca Smith is our student representative from Farson Eden School. We would like to thank Rebecca for joining the Board of Trustees this evening and sharing a fresh student perspective. Rebecca's attendance sends a positive message to all of the student body to become involved in a respectful way. Our students are capable of great things. Civic engagement is one of those things. Thank you, Rebecca. Ms. Rosanna Crowe. Yeah, Bart is. Yeah. Oh, we need, Ms. Rosanico is going to join. Sorry. Marlene Kramer is the Sweetwater #1 Teacher of the Year for the 2024-2025 school year. Ms. Kramer believes it is the most important thing she can teach her students is to always be kind to others as well as themselves. This fully describes Mrs. Kramer and her dedication to the classroom. Ms. Kramer is a Kinderboost teacher at Stagecoach Elementary School. She has worked in education for 30 years. In addition to teaching several elementary grade levels, she served as an instructional coach in Sweetwater County School District #1 for 8 years. Congratulations, Mrs. Kramer. This concludes our recognition for tonight.
Okay, item number 2 is the roll call on the agenda. Ms. Murray?
Mrs. Summers? Here. Mrs. Schumacher? Here. Mrs. Thompson? Here. Mrs. Wood? Here. Mr. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Sorensen?
Here.
Chair Jellicoe?
Here. We do have a quorum. I would now entertain a motion to approve the agenda and the addendum. It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Wood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. We have a superintendent's report on facilities. I see Mr. Celeroli did make it.
Madam Chair, members of the board, superintendent. Last Thursday on the 29th, we had the second phase of the Mercer was completed. What that entailed was the group from the state came to the Rock Springs High School, along with the engineering group, FEA, that was selected to do our Mercer. And we walked the building in the morning. We walked with Ben Straka, the administrator. Dr. Libby was also there. They walked through all of the floors. Their architect that they brought with them, he talked with Ben about the programming, and we went down the shops, and they were actually astounded to hear about the numbers of people on the waiting list for CTE. So they did a pretty good, thorough report. In fact, they got there on a day when previously my assistant director, Mark Patillo, and I were called to the high school gym because they noticed the lower gym floor, the maple flooring was starting to roll around the edges. We don't know whether that's from moisture. We did take moisture checks and couldn't find any moisture, but there's something going on. So we walked that. We walked the site where they originally talked about those of you who remember about the backflow preventer being replaced and the main water line being replaced. So after going through that, they broke for lunch, and then we went over to the satellite school. We walked through the satellite school, same thing. They wanted to know what the programming was. Hope was phenomenal. She was absolutely a world full of knowledge. She answered every single question that they had. They were really impressed with her knowledge, and as well as how the satellite school deals with the academy programs. So they asked a bunch of questions about the academy programs as well. The next step is they'll process their report. One of the things that they asked us for was they asked for lease information on the property. It has been the best of my knowledge that the way that the lease is written up is 5 years after completing the Rock Springs High School, the land reverts over to us. They had some questions in the lease, but honestly, they were legal questions, so I deferred them to our attorney. George was out of town last week. I got a letter from the school facilities wanting to know if we had those answers. I contacted George. He just got back this week, so he'll answer those this week. Once that gets all compiled, all the information will get compiled, and then it will come back to us. Generally speaking, districts have 30 days to look at the Mercer. The most cost-effective remedy is what the acronym stands for. Once we get that information, we have 30 days to evaluate it. That's by their rules. We don't have 30 days to evaluate it. So Dr. Libby wasn't there, so I volunteered Dr. Libby and myself to get that turned around in 2 days. Because what happens is, even though this money has been allocated and it's in legislative, in their legislation, it doesn't mean we're going to get it. They always have a back door where they can come in. If we haven't touched that money, they'll take that money and say, well, you know what, Jackson needs to expand their cafeteria. So we need $40 million to do that. And so the money slowly starts drifting away. So what we need to do is get that money encumbered as quickly as possible. But because we have new legislators coming in and we don't know what their stance is on the high school, nobody really said, but they talk about cuts. Our objective is to get this turned around quickly so that it'll come to the board in the October board meeting. Hopefully you guys will agree with us and approve it. Once that's approved, then it goes to the select committee, which also meets towards the end of October. The select committee still has to make a recommendation. Once they follow the recommendation of what the Mercer report has given them, then it goes on to the JAC, the Joint Appropriations Committee, which meets in December. If everything goes well, which with everyone who is in place currently, they're the ones who voted for it. I don't see any issues with that. We should be on the docket so that that money gets encumbered towards design, engineering, everything that goes with the continuing process. Because once December's JAC comes, then that is earmarked and goes to, this year I believe is a long legislative session, it's the budget session, and then that money won't be touched. Then that money becomes ours. Then we can go ahead and go out for, and I believe they're going to make us go for procuring an architect. So then we have to go through that process for an RFQ, then an RFP. And then we start moving forward. But that money will be tied into the project. And there will be no way that they can get to it. Well, let me take that back. There's always a way legislators can get something back. It's just amazing. We have Campbell 4, they have Campbell 4, and we've gone to court 4 times. And that just goes to show legislators really don't care what the Supreme Court says. So, but that gives us a better hope that we move forward in the process without any hiccups. Any questions?
Any questions?
Dr. Libby, did you?
Do you have anything to add?
No, a lot of times being a good leader is to know when you have others around you that know more than you do. So with Mr. Celeroni being involved, I'm highly confident in his ability to manage this part of the project. So thank you very much, sir.
That's why I mentioned earlier that I did attend that select committee with Dan, and will be attending future meetings just to keep a presence, Sweetwater One presence at those meetings to remind people that that money is there, and we're watching. We're watching. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now entertain a motion to suspend the board meeting and open the public hearing. It's moved by Mrs. Schumacher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Please. This is a public hearing to amend the 2024-2025 budget.
Good
Please.
evening, Chair Jellicoe, trustees, Superintendent Libby. For those of you who I have not met yet, I am Jessica Libby, the new Director of Grants and Federal Programs. No connection to Dr. Libby. We happen to spell our last names differently. So we just have a couple of budget changes on 25B. We just have a reclassification of funds to adjust for supplies. And these are all grants within the system. 25C, a reclassification of funds to adjust for training and supplies. 22B, reclassification of funds to adjust for payroll and professional development. 22C, to a budget setup for year 3 of the Y-Built grant. 25D, reduction of grant and final spending. That's part of some of the COVID funds that are going away at the end of this month. And 275, the reclassification of funds for final spending plan and the workforce stabilization. And that you will actually see later on the agenda for For approval, recommendation to approve a one-time workforce stabilization incentive for eligible employees of Sweetwater County School District Number 1. To be eligible for this one-time payment, employees must meet all of the following requirements: be either full-time or part-time as of August 19th, 2024, and have completed their first day of employment on or before August 19th, 2024, and have worked through September 20th, 2024 without a break in service since August 19th, 2024. The one-time payment will come in the form of a payroll run on September 25th, 2024. For all eligible employees, the gross amount will be $705. The workforce stabilization incentive will be subject to required payroll taxes and federal income tax withholding. This incentive will be funded through the ESSER 3 ARP grant and the Head Start grant. Long-term substitutes serving in full-time classroom teaching positions, which are teaching positions the district has been unable to fill, are eligible to receive a one-time payment of $352.50 if all of the following requirements are met. Be either full-time or part-time as of August 19th, 2024, and have completed their first day of employment on or before August 19th, 2024, and have worked through September 20th, 2024, without a break in service since August 19th, 2024. Contracted staffing, substitutes not serving in a full-time classroom teaching positions the district has been unable to fill, coaches and sponsors not serving as a full-time or part-time employee, and temporary employees, i.e. summer hires, summer interns, et cetera, are not eligible for this one-time workforce stabilization. Any questions from the board?
Any questions? I think the one change from previous ones is there was an amount for each year of service, and that is not a part of this particular incentive.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we have received no written public comments for this, for the public hearing part of the meeting. Is there any in-person public comment on the budget, on this item, to amend the 24-25 budget? Any in-person public comment relevant to the 24-25 budget changes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene the board meeting. It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second. Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. So we are now back in the regular board meeting. Communications and correspondence. If a member of the public initiates specific complaints or charges against an employee, in order to protect the employee's rights to privacy and due process, the board will only hear those complaints or charges in closed session. The board encourages concerned individuals to file complaints using the appropriate district complaint procedure and appropriate forms, which can be obtained from the district's website. As per policies BDDH and KD, please limit your comments to the board to one time. If your comments have been previously submitted in writing, please refrain from addressing the board a second time. Written comments will be posted to the agenda in the written public comment section below. Written public comments must be received by 1:00 p.m. on the day of the board meeting and will be available for the public and trustees to view, but will not be read aloud at the board meeting. Policies BDDH and KD continue to state, questions asked by the public shall, when possible, be answered immediately by the chairman or referred to staff members present for reply. Questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the board or administrative staff for consideration and later response. We do have a written public comment that has been added to the agenda. Is there any in-person public comment? If so, please come to the podium, state your name, and if you're associated with a group, please let us know.
Hello, my name is Natalie Powell, and I'm the co-chair of the Parent Involvement Team at Rock Springs High School with part one of our comment. As a reminder, the PIT was formed at the solicitation of the high school and has been meeting monthly since the beginning of the 2022-23 academic year. Our purpose is to facilitate effective communication and advocacy between the high school and the community. We had our first PIT meeting of the school year last week. The bulk of the discussion was around the accelerated schedule. We remain concerned about the implementation of the accelerated schedule, as well as the timing being aligned with the new curriculum beyond textbooks. One of the major concerns is the change management process itself. As a parent group, we would like to understand the implementation steps, an opportunity for stakeholder feedback, and the evaluation process. How will we know this is effective? What milestones and measurables will be put into place, and how often? Finally, how will that data be distributed to stakeholders? We hope that proactive steps will be taken to solicit input and data from all stakeholders, including teachers, students, parents, and community partners. This group believes that data collection and evaluation should begin being reviewed as early as the first quarter. We wonder if those measurables have been identified. This could include fall and summative YTOP, ACT scores, attendance rates, including a comparison to YTOP and ACT scores from the initial block schedule implementation. One of the primary reasons for this new schedule is the opportunity to see teachers every day, which in theory makes sense. However, now students may go 8 months between math, reading, science, and other core subjects. Will it be a win? The ask is that stakeholders are able to access a detailed roadmap of the measurable objectives, timelines, evaluation methods, and the eventual data. We know that Rock Springs High School is considered accredited with support by the WDE. It was shared that the SIP review will take place soon. We hope the accelerated schedule, as well as a change in curriculum, will be included in the SIP plan for the WDE to give valuable feedback. We were made aware of students being asked to leave the building by principals. Page 41 of the student handbook states that students with a reduced classroom schedule are not allowed in the hallways during instructional time. We feel that this sentence is being mischaracterized and inconsistently enforced. High school students are often traveling between campuses. Because math was taken out of the satellite campus and because the high school is split between 2 campuses, students sometimes have needs at both campuses. Students should feel welcomed and invited to be at the high school that they are students of. Building relationships of trust, collaboration, and respect should start with students having a place at their school. We want to reiterate that it is imperative that different voices are heard and that disagreement or differing viewpoints are not viewed as threatening. Any strong organization welcomes respectful opposition as it helps maintain integrity and can help improve decisions and outcomes. Productive disagreements can be an opportunity to learn and grow, and the PIT will continue to share constructive feedback in addition to celebrating the school's successes. We welcome feedback from parents, teachers, students, and the Board of Trustees. You can reach us at rshspit307@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Good evening. I'm Allie Moser, co-chair of the parent involvement team at the high school. We do appreciate Mr. Wright's comments tonight about the incident at the high school, but would like to add our deep concern about the handling of the situation today. As a parent group, we are disappointed in the lack of initiating district SRP protocols and the lack of communication with students, parents, and staff. Anytime there is a police presence needed at a school, the school should at a minimum be put into a hold. The press release from RSPD did not specify which campus today's events occurred at, further leading to confusion and worry. Trust and transparency are contingent upon administrators effectively handling situations, particularly involving student safety. You cannot over-communicate with parents, especially when it comes to student safety. We would ask for a thorough review of today's events. Our children deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Libby and Chair Jellicoe and board members. I'm Laura McKee, and I am addressing concerns with the student survey and them being an opt-out according to the new parental law that went into effect. It should be an opt-in is how I'm understanding the bill, SF9, and I have a copy of that as well that I'll be providing. But the question, it says in SF9, before administrating a well-being questionnaire or health screening tool to a student or group of students, each school district shall make available the questionnaire information on the health screening tool to the parent or guardian and obtain written or verbal consent from the parent or guardian to administer the well-being questionnaire or the health screening tool to the student. I went into Power School under the student, and she's an 8th grader, in PE, and it showed that she had an F because this survey was not complete. And I don't understand why there would be a grade for a form in Parent Square that needs to be done by a parent. When I went into the form section of Parent Square, it had a green button that was supposed to let me select yes or no. It wouldn't do anything. And it also said that I was acknowledging that I had had a chance to review a summary, which was also not there. So I called the cab and I left a message there. This was on September the 6th. And I noticed on September 7th that I was then able to go in there and answer the question. And it was totally different. It had all the information there. So now my concern is, you know, for one thing, the survey is for 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th graders. She's an 8th grader. And it's showing a grade for this, an F. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It also, I just wonder how many parents went in there and had the same experience I had, didn't know what to do, and didn't take the steps that I did, and signed it, feeling, you know, pressured to make sure their kids are doing well in school, and signed it without, or went in there without being able to say yes or no that they wanted to complete the survey. The other thing, so my question also is that if the parent does nothing on there, they do not fill out the survey, or they don't do the in parent square, they don't go in there and they don't opt in to the survey, which they shouldn't have to. But if they don't do that, then the student does not get the survey. That's what my question is to the board, that the student should not get the survey. And I did bring a copy again of all this stuff with me as well. And also so anyway, I'll just do that part for tonight and then I'll do, but that's my question, is that if the student, because the way that the law reads is that you have to have that parental consent. So to me, it's opt-in. It's, you know, you're not, it shouldn't be that you have to opt out. It's that you either get a signature or verbal, or the child does not take the survey.
Thank you. And we will refer that.
Okay,
Refer
would
that
you guys
question.
like a copy of the?
Mrs. Fletcher could answer that. Do we want to do that now? Okay, further public comment? Good evening, members of the board, Chairwoman Jellicoe, Superintendent Libby. My name is Lou Ellison, and I come tonight as a concerned citizen of this community. On September 4th, there was a Parent Square announcement by Stephanie Tolman called Behavioral Health Survey Consent Form. Parents must opt out or in by September 13th, but nowhere in the original announcement did it say the due date for the parent completion. Only once when you clicked on the form did it show the due date of September 13th. This did not allow for transparency. When asking for information back from parents in a timely manner, all expectations of parents need to be upfront and visible. The due date is quickly approaching without parents' guardians realizing it. If a parent misses the opportunity to opt out in or out of the survey, what will be the next step? Will the survey still be administered without parents' knowledge, which then violates the Parental Bill Rights SF-009, or will the district decide to implement in loco parentis in place of a parent? Is there a policy or procedure available for review or reference when it comes to administering future surveys? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Further public comment?
Good evening, members of the board, Chair Jellicoe and Superintendent Libby. My name is Cheryl Notman. I am the SCA president, and I would just like to, I guess I'm speaking for SCA right now. I would like to invite everyone. We're going to host a school board candidate forum in 2 weeks. So if you are running, you will be hearing from me as soon as I get my computer back, and which should be tomorrow. And we are going to host it in 2 weeks, September 23rd from 6 to 9. It will be streamed but not recorded. So if you'd like to watch it, tune in.
And it will be here at the CAP.
Yes, here at the CAP.
Further public comment?
Good evening. My name is Harley Morgan, and I am a student in the Rock Springs High School Academy of Public Service. And today I'll be representing the Health Occupations Academy and the CTE Academy. This is our first monthly board report, which we will report to the school board each month throughout the school year. All three academies welcome new sophomores into our programs. Students in HOCA and APS have completed 119 community service hours since the first day of school through today. All seniors in both HOCA and APS have completed the mentor training and will begin mentoring at Eastside and Pilot Butte Elementary Schools this week. Juniors and seniors in the Health Academy will begin job shadowing the week of September 23rd. Seniors in the Academy of Public Service have begun their job shadowing and have completed 108 hours of job shadowing since the school year began. Juniors in the Academy of Public Service will begin job shadowing on Wednesday of this week and will partner with 11 local entities for their job shadowing experiences. Seniors in the Academy of Public Services have built structures that they will have the opportunity to burn and study at RSFD Station Number 3 on Thursday, September 12th. Sophomores in the Academy of Public Services will get to take a field trip to RSFD Station Number 3 on Thursday, September 12th. FCCLA and FBLA took a group of kids to Laramie Saturday for a college tour and went to the game. We also sent some CTE Academy kids to North Park to help at their field day. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Chair Jellicoe, members of the board, Superintendent Libby, and the public. My name is Annie Fletcher, and I wanted to take a moment to celebrate some of the amazing things our mental health team is doing in light of it being Suicide Awareness Month. Our mental health team has done an amazing job of wanting to unify our messaging and align with what is happening at the state and at the local level. So all of our staff will be receiving QPR training in the next few months, and you guys are all welcome to come and join one of the staff. We will also be working to expand the number of our staff trained in giving QPR training. So we will be able to offer that at a more rapid pace and to any community member that might be so inclined. We are very lucky that we're partnering with the Prevention Coalition to get that done this time around. We also wanted to put a shout out to our secondary schools who are utilizing the Sources of Strength program to create peer mentor groups and to spread messages of hope and help and connections to care. They're all doing an amazing job, and we have trainers coming in the end of October. That is also open if you guys would like to come and see what that is about. Through Project Aware, which seems to be a topic of conversation, we also wanted to highlight that through the course of the grant, we have so far received 317 referrals for Tier 3 mental health support. So this is therapeutic counseling. Of those, we have served 177 students, all with parental consent, and we are currently serving 64 students. Those students receive the mental health care during the school day to minimize time out of class and to provide that therapeutic support that they need in order to be successful in the classroom. When we look at some of the indicators of how things are going, when we look at the pre and the post surveys that we give those students or those families, one of the ones that kind of stands out to me is that my student felt able to deal with unexpected life events. When entering the program, it sat at 68%. When exiting, it was 84% felt that they could do that. So as we're kind of looking into what's next and where we sit, please remember that we are very lucky to have these grant opportunities. And if you have any questions, my name is out there everywhere. Just come find me and I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Further public comment? further public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's reports. Mrs. Summers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the general fund treasurer's report, month of August 2024, the beginning balance was $12,166,172.77. Revenues received during the month totaled $7,614,296.45. Less the warrants written during the month, totaling $6,470,490.99 and voided checks throughout the month totaled $2,559.68, resulting in an ending cash balance of $13,312,537.91. For the school lunch program treasurer's report, August of 2024, the beginning balance was $109,888.44. Interest accrued during the month totaled $286.33. Revenue generated during the month totaled $65,900.60. The federal reimbursement totaled $13,886.99, and the warrants written during the month totaled $54,388.40 for an ending balance of $135,573.96. For the Head Start program, the treasurer's report as of August 31st, 2024. The beginning balance was, $48,585.47. Deposits during the month totaled $225.82, and there was an ending cash balance of $48,811.29. That concludes the treasurer's reports.
I entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's reports for the general fund, the school lunch program, and the Head Start program. It's been moved by Mr. Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the warrants.
The warrants, checks number 169791 through 170325 totaled the amount of $4,552,185.48. Net payroll numbers 129560 through 129564 totaled the amount of $9,378.54. And payroll numbers 805324 through 806000 totaled the amount of $1,812,148.60. Number 83474 totaled the amount of $2,130.72. Checks number 4021616, number 4012326, number 4012346, number 4018185, and number 4027572 were transferred general fund, totaled the amount of $6,210,000. Checks number 4021623 were a general fund transfer totaling $2,500,000. And check number 8-2024-01, Sweetwater County School District number 1 retiree insurance account, totaled $350,000. That concludes the warrants.
I entertain a motion to approve the district warrants and release of those payments. Is there a motion?
I need to declare it
It's a motion. Mrs. Thompson made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. Discussion.
I need to declare a conflict on check number 169941.
Any other discussion? I too need to declare a conflict on warrant 00170-269. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are matters about which the board has governing policies, implementation of which is delegated to the superintendent. They will be enacted in one motion in the order listed below. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the time the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the board request specific items be held and discussed separately and/or removed from this section. Approval of the consent agenda items as presented and/or amended. B, approval of the minutes from the August 12th, 2024 regular meeting. C, curriculum. Approval of the purchase of online resources from Edmonton. D, facilities, post-approval of Farson Eden School parking lot repairs. E, facilities, approval of the purchase of a walk-in freezer and cooler for Overland Elementary Early Childhood Education Center. F, facilities, approval of the Desert View mass notification bid. G, finance, approval of the resolution to amend the 2024-2025 budget. H, finance, approval of the vendor list to supply white copy paper from September 2024 through August 2025. I, general board business, approval to authorize the Title VIII Impact Aid Survey date of October 9th, 2024. J, human resources, approval of personnel recommendations. Okay, and that, hearing no items held, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, item number 12 is a discussion on the written public comment. As Dr. Libby stated earlier, we are ending a lot of the processes with the federal funds coming to an end this month. The written public comment was part of that accommodation, if you will, to allow public comment in a written form during the COVID period. With those protocols coming to an end, the discussion is about whether we want to continue with the written public comment or end it with the other COVID protocols. Discussion.
Chair Jellicoe,
Mr. Wright.
just my 2 cents. I would vote that we keep it. I think it allows people who can't make the board meeting an opportunity to submit comments. I feel like in the time that I've been here, it's been used, and I think if anything, it's just a tool for feedback because we obviously don't read those or go through them in the actual board meeting. It just allows us to be aware of what's on the community's mind and just another avenue to provide that feedback. So I would suggest we try to keep it.
I think Dr. Libby and I have had a conversation about this. Dr. Libby, would you like to expand a little bit on your thoughts as far as how we treat, because questions come up in the written public comment, but they're not really a part of the agenda. So how do we address that concern?
Yes, Chair Jellicoe. So we have spoken about it. Then it's also the same for visitors' comment that actually isn't necessarily part of the agenda that's approved either. I think there's ways to grab that information, and I think Mr. Wright and I have been working through some ideas as to how we can continue to provide feedback and answers to folks that provide their question in written public comment or when they come up to the mic to ask for visitors' comment. It is an opportunity for folks to share. I'm also one of those folks that COVID really didn't do us a lot of favors by pushing people away from the community. I think if folks have a question or concern, it's nice that they be able to come and visit and share those concerns directly with the school board or with those that can answer those questions when you follow the chain of command. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Many of the times that those written public comments don't have questions in it, so there's nothing really to respond to. They don't get posted anywhere. They don't go anywhere. They're not part of any type of discussion. If by chance there's pieces of it that we can pull out and we can make it part of an educational opportunity, I look forward to those opportunities to do so. However, it's just another protocol that was part of the COVID protocols that we had to put in place because of distancing. And now that we no longer have to do that, I always like to encourage folks to come and be a part of the community here at the board. So either way, I guess.
Further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Summers?
I guess I am in agreement with Cole. I think it provides our community a way to give feedback and to express their concerns. The other thing I would bring up is that we are a very large district geographically, and for people from Wamsutter to come and have to share in person, you're talking an hour trip one way across I-80, which can be quite treacherous throughout the school year. Similarly, coming down from Farson can be quite hazardous on those roads. And I think it provides an opportunity for people in our outlying areas to also have their comments heard before the board. And so I would encourage that we keep it. And maybe, as you work through finding ways to get that feedback from the community and then deal with those answers, then maybe it evolves and it becomes changed or possibly replaced at some point. But I think at this point, it's still a valuable tool.
Further discussion? Mr. Sorensen?
Madam Chair, is this mic working now? It's angry. I guess I didn't realize until just now that this was not a thing before COVID. I think it's essential in our community. I know I commented, I prefer it would be better if everybody came and talked to us, got better context. But I know as I took an interest in the board that I had to coach my daughter's basketball teams on Monday nights and things like that just aren't make it not possible to be here. I know work schedules with a lot of our people make it so they can't be here, especially with the meeting being once a month. You miss it, then you're long gap in between. So I personally think it's essential to get a pulse of the community to keep this going.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mrs. Thompson?
Madam Chair, just at looking at kind of where we've been through COVID and where we're coming from, I feel that this tool is still essential at this time. And for that, I am still in favor of having the written public comment. I think it just gives residents and parents, even students have used it, another avenue to reach out and provide communication with us. It's also kind of a way to get kind of a heartbeat feel of what the community is seeing as far as concerns. Some of the concerns are coming through that and not directly in front of us. So at this time, I'm in favor of just keeping the written public comment.
Any further discussion? So I guess the next question is, because we have not really, the written public comment is there. We have not been really responding to that. How do we proceed in that regard?
Madam Chair.
Any thoughts?
I do have a suggestion that I would entertain the board to peruse, I guess. But a lot of boards, and we don't have to do this, but a lot of boards limit comment to what's on the agenda. So if it isn't on the agenda, you can't come up and comment on it. And if you look at even state boards, they actually and Mr. Celeroli would be good at this because he goes to a lot of state board meetings, but they'll even have sections. So like, here's a section, and then there's public comment, and you can only comment during that time after that section for that comment. And then they move on to the next portion of the meeting and allow for another comment. if your concern is that we have so much, that we are taking up precious staff time to answer all of these questions, then limiting it to what's on the agenda might control that a little bit to let's see what concerns they have as far as the agenda items at that time. That doesn't mean that they can't come and voice their concerns on a different issue that isn't on the agenda, but as far as written comments, that might help keep that more into one area. That's only a suggestion of what I've noticed other boards doing.
So if I'm understanding your suggestion correctly, the written comment is limited to items on the agenda?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be a discussion point. What are your thoughts there? Dr. Libby?
Madam Chair, what Member Thompson is talking about is that's a pretty common board policy and part of Robert's Rule of Orders in many instances where visitors' comment and public comment are geared directly towards the agenda items. I think one of the pieces that we've spoken of before, and I've heard in other school districts, is that the visitors' comment, when it's geared towards the board agenda items, it is relevant to the topic at hand, where many times topics could come up in a visitor's comment or in a written comment that aren't connected to any of the work that's actually being done at the board meeting that time. So it makes it really difficult to be able to respond to any of the information because there's no information, there's no background information, there's no understanding of where it's coming from. It also has an opportunity that there's a chain of command to follow as far as where concerns arise from, to make sure that we follow those protocols that are in place ahead of time. Not to say that doing it doesn't keep other concerns from coming to light, but it allows folks to follow the appropriate chain of command and either start at the school and work their way up towards the superintendent to make sure that we can get those questions answered appropriately. I've been in several school districts where public comment, either written or visitors' comment, are directly geared towards the agenda that is presented for that evening. It's a common practice.
Further comment? So what is the will of the board?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Schumacher.
I personally think that it's maybe something that we could think about and address at the next meeting, potentially, if that's possible. I mean, I know you guys want a response tonight, but it's kind of a lot to kind of take in. And ultimately, hearing there's so much different perspective from everyone, I know that I personally am not going to be able to just say exactly what I think is probably the best option as far as that goes. I'd just like a little bit of time to consider it.
It's listed as a discussion item tonight, so we could certainly bring it back next month for, a proposal. We can do that if that's the will of the board at this point. I'm getting kind of a thumbs up on that. That seems that so that we can have some time to think about it. And okay, so we will bring it back up next month and decide how we're going to proceed, under what parameters we're going to proceed.
Chair Jelko,
Mr. Wright.
might we do like a 30-minute workshop before the meeting to have the opportunity to discuss it together prior to the meeting? Because I mean, we can all sit and think on it, but if we don't come back and collaborate a little bit, we'll be in the same boat next month.
We can schedule a workshop at 5:30. We'll do that. We'll schedule a workshop for 5:30 on the October meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Given that we're talking about what is going to be public comment, I would rather have that discussion not at a workshop, but during the actual board meeting. Not everybody can make it to a workshop at 5:30 or 5 o'clock. So I would prefer that we have that discussion during the meeting so the public can hear our discussion. Because our workshops are not recorded.
It would take probably the same amount of time as we're taking now. So we'll just put it on the agenda for next month. Okay.
Chair Jelko, if I might, I think maybe just a point of clarification for the public. I personally would like to see the comments be able to be a little more open-ended. However, I understand what Dr. Libby and Mrs. Thompson are talking about and other boards, how it's done, that they're more geared to the agenda. What I think it's important for the public to know is that oftentimes we do hear comments that haven't followed the proper chain of command, and that's where some of the concern goes. And so oftentimes there are comments that are unfounded or require investigation and can't be spoken to directly at that point in time. And that's the reason for that side of the argument. The flip side is we're not trying to stifle you, and we're not trying to keep what's going on in the community out of our inbox, right? So I don't know what the answer is, but I think that's where we need to have the discussion is we want the pulse of the community, but we do want the proper chain of command followed as well. So what's the happy medium?
Madam Chair.
Dr. Libby.
Thank you. My whole purpose for bringing up the initial question, it was again, back to the original, was the COVID protocols that are in place. I appreciate the conversation tonight. I just wanted to make sure that as we move forward towards the end of September, before we got to the October board meeting, that we didn't touch anything that may want to continue to be a conversation from the board level. I see both sides of the coin. I'm hoping that as the work that we do together on that education corner, that we get better at responding to those questions and getting that information out so that we build that trust back with the community that there's nothing to hide. We just got to find a really good way of being able to provide that information and those resources so folks feel comfortable about coming and asking those questions, knowing that they're going to get a response. We can't always guarantee that they like the response, but we'll be honest and we'll be factual. We'll try to give the best why that we can and listen to both sides of the story. So I think either way, the whole objective is just to make sure that we didn't take something off that was expected to be there, and then to continue to have the conversation.
Chair Jellicoe, one more comment.
Mr. Wright.
So from that side of things, the topics for the education corner are, I've ran with what I've had so far. And there's been need that's come up in the community to talk about the hiring process and a couple of the other things. So I think Education Corner being allotted to specific things that we want to talk about at that time are great. But I also think, as you're saying, Dr. Libby, that if we took that time, because we're not always going to have a topic for that month. So if we can use some of the questions in the written public comments and use that time to educate the community by responding to those questions, I think that's a great use of the time.
Okay, further discussion. Okay, then we will just add that to the agenda for next month and give you some time to think about it. Item number 13, the Workforce Stabilization Incentive. Is there anyone that's going to speak to that?
Madam Chair, Trustees, Superintendent Libby, if there's any questions upon my previous explanation during the budget revision.
Okay, and I guess I want to be clear that the reason those amounts were arrived at is the number of staff that we have in those two respective categories, the part-time and the full-time, and the amount of money that we have remaining from all the federal funds that we had that is ending. And that's how we came up with those figures.
Correct.
I just want to clarify that.
Correct. Yes, we had to take the COVID money, basically the ESSER funds that we have to spend down, and divided it by the amount of staff in the district.
So there's a set pot of money.
Yes.
And then we have our numbers of two different classes of two
employees,
different
yes.
classifications of employees. So
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the one-time workforce stabilization incentive for eligible employees of Sweetwater County School District Number 1? It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Wood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the 2024-2025 handbooks. approval of the pre-K through 12th grade handbook changes for the 24-25 school year. Any discussion? Is there a motion? It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Schumacher. And as I look through those, most of those had to do with the Overland Elementary and the changes in the fees and the times, and those things were primarily the changes that we're addressing at this time. So we have a motion to approve that handbook. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, general board business. We have approval to repeal several policies. A is policy FB, the facilities planning. B is policy FC, facilities capitalization program. C is policy FEA, educational specifications. D is policy FEB, selection of the architect and responsibilities. E is policy FED, construction cost estimates and determinations. And F is policy FEFB, contractors affidavits and guarantees. G is policy FF, recognition of contributions. And H is policy FG, board inspection and acceptance of new facilities. And all of those are to be repealed because the state now takes care of the funding of schools. And so all of that falls under state statute. That's why we're repealing, so that our policies are not in conflict with state statute. Okay, is there a motion to approve all of those policies to be repealed?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Wright. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Summers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Number 16 is new business. We have a vacancy list as of today. That's A. B is the August 2024 Head Start Governing Board and Policy Council Monthly Report. So that's there for your information. And I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Okay, we are going into executive session for the discussion of legal and personnel matters. There will be no action taken upon our return. Return to the regular meeting from executive session. It's been moved by Mrs. Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, and I would entertain a motion to now adjourn. It's been moved by Mrs. Summers, okay? Second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. We are now adjourned.